What's up everyone, Secret here, hope you're doing well. So I've got another Epic 7 video for you all today. I have recently pulled Conqueror Lilias and I've been testing her literally all day in PvP, running her with two teams really, which I want to showcase for you. I'll quickly just show you her build so you know what I'm looking at before we start. So I got her at 295 speed. I could put a different set on her that gave her about 285 speed with more health and defense, but for starters I just wanted to run her as fast as I could to make sure I outsped. Not the highest effectiveness, I know, but it did work. I'll show you the footage and I'll talk over the gameplay and explain a little bit about how I used her and how I found was best to use her. So let's run the gameplay and I'll let you see how she is. So this is the first team I ran her with. I paired her up with Ruel and Amelia and Landy, and the idea was basically to just try and get Landy to kill everything, keep her alive with the Ruel and the Amelia, and the Lilias just do Lilias things, give everyone vigor, keep the enemy a little bit debuffed so they couldn't really do anything with the decreased attack. And it did work really well. The higher I climbed, the harder it was, but there was quite a few enemies that you can fight that I was struggling with before, so she did help me quite a lot in that way. As you can see in this one, we've got an enemy Landy, and all the buffs that come from the Amelia and Ruel was not helping too much, but we did win pretty much every fight I played all day. I lost a couple at the start when I was just learning the new playstyle and how to use her, but she is very, very strong. She facilitates the bruiser gameplay even more than we had before. It's absolutely bonkers. So that's the end of that fight. I cut off the ends of the fight so you didn't have to stay for all the boring bits. This fight, the Rem, she can't counter the Landy S3, which is that was one of the main goals with Landy, that her S3 can't be countered. And the BM Haste was here for the RB, but I found out later I played with another team which I did not have to worry about the RB revive, so Blood Moon Haste was not something that was necessary all the time. But like I say, this was the first team I ran. I probably did about 10 to 15 arena matches with this team, and it did work. I lost a few. I got a little bit angry at the start because the team was failing on a lot of comps which I thought it shouldn't be failing on, but I did generally make it work. So Landy just ramps up. The more the fight goes on, the more she ramps up, as you can see. A little bit of pause there to decide who to go into, who to try and take down. So the idea of the team was just to try and outlast, keep the Landy alive, keep the attack buff up from the Amelia, keep pushing her forward, just keep that S3 cycling as fast as I could, just to get as much damage out as I could. Like I say, this team I bought the haste for the RB, but generally I was running Ruel, so there was double Soul Weaver, just trying to keep that sustain up constantly. So she worked really well against the BBK there because she stripped the immortality off her immediately. Pushed the Pilatus back. So Pilatus was one unit I was worried about running Conqueror Lilias into because of how her passive works, but I found out later it didn't really matter. The damage that Pilatus was putting back with the Vigor buff up was just almost nothing. Rimuru was a little bit of a pain, the defense break on everybody because I had no immunity, and the Landy, any enemy Landy was always hitting back quite hard because all the buffs that was coming up. But the general idea was to try and sustain Landy, keep her alive. Ruel was there for any revives that might have been needed, which quite often was the case. But like I say, this was the first team I ran, and it did work quite well. So this was another game with the same team. The idea is just to get Conqueror Lilias to use her S3, S2, and then Amelia start pushing the Landy up, start dealing as much damage as possible.
I'll take your life. Can you even reach me?
So the S3 from Lilias works quite well into Violet because it strips his immunity, his evasion, and gives him attack down, so he can't really deal too much damage. So that was a bad thing there, because she had 3 debuffs. The Amelia didn't cleanse everything, but she still dealt quite a bit of damage, got rid of the straws. Quite a lot of damage from Belian. Belian was a tough enemy because she does strip on her S1. But she was definitely more easy to manage with this team than how I've been previously approaching Arena. It was just a case of whittling them down. Like I say, the fights were quite long. It was not like a cleave team where you can just cleave the entire enemy in a minute or two. You kind of have to sit with the battle for a bit longer. Take your time with it, pick your units, how they attack, who they attack, where to send the heals. But eventually it was just a case of slowly grinding the enemy teams down. If they had no sustain as well, it was very difficult for them to keep up with all the healing from Amelia and Ruel. So like I say, Amelia just cycles so fast, keeps pushing the Landy. A little bit difficult with the Politis passive because she stops the CR gain. And then it's just a case of slowly grinding them down. Amelia is such a strong Soul Weaver. Very good support with the CR push. So this was the second team I used. Conqueror Lilias, Ruel, Belian and Rem. And once I got this team up and running, I think I went nearly, what was it, 15 games undefeated. Just every team, I could battle them easily. The counters from Belian and Rem were crazy. With the Vigor buff, they just don't get touched. As you'll see, look, the counters just keep flying out non-stop. And then if anybody got in trouble, I had the Ruel there to revive. So the counters were just constant, and that's what I say about Lilias and her playstyle, what she facilitates. She just gives so much utility to the team with the Vigor buff. It's absolutely bonkers. So Violet's still a bit tough because he can cleanse himself and then use his S3 like that and hit a lot of damage. But that's why I decided to use Ruel, because she has the revive, which helped out a lot. And with the Vigor buff on my Ruel, I'll show you the stats at the end, but she's got 20k health, 1700 odd defense. It was very difficult to take her down when she's got Vigor up. So Rem is just an absolute unit, non-stop countering. Very, very difficult to deal with because I've got her on Sigurd Scythe as well. So that got rid of the Charlotte there. The main thing with Violet was the evades. Sometimes it was a bit difficult to deal with him if he constantly evaded, but again it was just a case of keep grinding him down over time. So the big heals coming out from Ruel, keeping Rem alive. She's definitely a very, very strong unit, Lilias. She gives everybody the option to try and take first turn with her, and facilitates that, like I say, that bruiser playstyle with the Vigor buff that's undispellable. So you get the 30% health and the 30% defense and attack from the Vigor buff. Just plays straight into the bruiser playstyle. It's undispellable. This fight does go on for a little bit with the Violet constantly countering and healing, but yeah, I think it does go down in the end. So you're probably asking yourselves, is she worth pulling for? I definitely think she's worthwhile pulling for, but she's slowly emphasizing how much of a power creep Smilegate is slowly doing.
Feel my sword. I'll make you kneel.
So on to the next fight. So I wanted to take the team into a full counter team, and that's why I tried this. I was a bit skeptical at whether it would work, because every unit is counter based. I was worried that I'd get overwhelmed by damage, but it seemed to work quite well using my own counterplay style. As you can see, the Ruel gets stunned very early on. And with the Vigor buff, Violet just struggles to even get through Rem's health there. A little bit of self-sustain with the Sigurd Scythe artifact. The dual attack from Lilias helping so much, because no matter who she dual attacks with, there's great utility from all three units. The AoE from Belian, the heal from Ruel, the potential defense break from Rem. Very good with the S1 as well. So once she's used her S3 into her S2, when it comes around again, she uses the S1, which is a guaranteed dual attack. So this was another case of finish everybody else off and slowly deal with the Violet, who was probably one of the most annoying units to deal with this team. Ruel bringing the healing. She was a very good unit in this team. So the Vigor buff just providing so much assistance. So I skipped the rest of that because it was just again Violet getting slowly beaten down. This was I wanted to try this team into Aravi because I thought she was going to be a big difficulty to get over. As you can see there, look, Milim did very little damage to Lilias, and my Lilias is not even built that tanky. Heal her back up. Another bit of synergy I had was made sure Ruel had the most health, and I had her on Idol's Cheer, so that when the redirected provoke come out from Lilias, it would be pushing up my Rem all the time, which was quite helpful to make sure Rem got her S3 in, like now. And obviously there's a lot of damage to come out from the counters on both sides. So this was where I was worried about the Aravi, but she barely even tickled. And again now with the dual attack, slowly whittling them down. See counters off both sides. It wasn't just me getting the good RNG here. Both teams countering every game, but she just very easily fell. Will be on our side today as well. And I think this was definitely my favourite way to play. I'll show you the win streaks in a minute after the last bit of footage is finished, and I'll have a quick talk over if I think she's definitely worth pulling for. So again, another easy team there. If they have no sustain, it's very hard for them to outlast. So the final team here, or there might be one more after this, I'm not too sure. Again, Politis, I just stopped worrying about her. She just dealt almost no damage. With the Vigor buff, it literally just does nothing. And I wanted to try a team into Arbiter Vildred, but without the haste, to see if they could deal with it. And as you can see, Rem countered for so much damage. Also the AOL, I wanted to try her into AOL to see how much damage they could get round the AOL. So the RB revive, this is what I wanted to test, how it worked. See if the RB could cleave the whole team, and he did do good damage. But the counters kicked in. That's the RB gone. That's the politest gone. So a silenced Ruel there, couldn't do any healing, so I just had to pray that we could last out the damage from their team. And we very easily do manage that. So I will have a talk over everything else. Just thought I'd quickly show you the builds of the units that I used. If you want to see one in depth, obviously just pause it and have a quick look. Nothing out of the ordinary. Pretty general stat lines on everyone. So yeah, like I say, Lilias, just tried to build her as fast as possible, just to make sure I outsped everything I fought. Landy, not quite as tanky as I'd like. Put her on Symbol for the extra hit chance. Haste would normally be on my Idol's Cheer, but my Ruel had that. Amelia, 250-ish speed, tanky. Agaharas. So just a bit of bonus content here. This is my pools. I initially had about 2,000 mystics and I was 107th on pity. I didn't get anywhere close, so the last 69 mystic pools I had to farm and refresh the shop for. You'll see my Skystones drop in a minute, but I'd just like to say that Lilias is just godly, basically. So godly that I think Smilegate need to consider nerfing units, definitely. She's very strong. She's so power crept that it makes a lot of old units redundant. She has so much going for her. She, like I said through the video, she facilitates so many new different play styles and makes a lot of old play styles 10 times better, and very difficult to deal with some teams that before there might have been some play around. The Vigor buff is just insanely strong. 30% defense and attack on some units is just far too much. Pair her with someone like Crimson Armin with an Aureus, and you just can't kill teams. That's a team that was inspired by a guild member. I will link his YouTube in the description so you can check his video out if you want to. He runs C Armin and Landy, and it works very well for him. But yeah, she's so strong that I do honestly think Smilegate need to consider tuning some units down when they do the balance patches, because it's just getting silly. I know they're scared to give out these ML5 selectors if they nerf a unit, but they've only got to get over that hurdle once, announce that they're not going to give an ML5 selector every time they nerf a unit, and then it's done. Because at the minute the state of the game is just, it's very difficult. It's making a lot of people not want to play it because the counters, basically the counter situation is too much. As you saw from my team, if that was the other way around, you can guarantee if that was a defense team, they'd counter every single attack without fail. There'd be no questions there. So I think you're just about to see the end of my mystic pools. So you'll see how much my Skystones drop by. I think I roughly worked out it would cost me about 100 mil gold to buy these mystics. I also jump up to 1638 bookmarks, covenants. But I did manage to get her. It took me 4 days to farm all them mystics out. So, but anyway, that's the end of the video. I'd like to thank everybody for watching. If you did make it this far, it would be very helpful if you liked and subscribed to the channel. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video. And Secret Sinner out.
There are only two options in life.